start this out then. And we're now recording. So good morning, everyone. My name is Miranda Stiers, and I am the Capacity Building Program Specialist here with the partnership. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I know I have my colleague joining, so I'll let them introduce themselves. Still muted. So for our check-in, if folks can just let us know who you are, where you're calling from. And for our check-in, what's been a big challenge this week? I know there's a lot of challenges with everything that's happening. For myself, one of the things has been managing my space in terms of what working from home looks like. For anyone else who would like to go?
Hi, I'm Enad. I can only be on for 30 minutes, but my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I think I'm having a workspace issue too, because I want to make sure like I have, work-life balance, in my living room. So, but just getting your workspace set up to where it's kind of optimum, I noticed like my overhead lights aren't enough for me if I want to kind of work a little late. So it was like, okay, now I need to like go pilfer a lamp from another room. Oh, wait, that lamp won't work. So I'm kind of negotiating my workspace as well. And then I find that I'm so busy and I'm on so many calls during the day that I don't have time to recreate my office, at home.
So what we're doing, I know some folks are just joining and hopefully folks are able to unmute, but just doing your name, where you're calling from, and what's been one of your biggest challenges this week?
My name's Marilyn, and I'm calling from Barstow, and the biggest challenges is trying to self-isolate and still provide services to meet our clients' needs at our agency. And that's it for me.
Hi, I'm Sheridan. I work with the One Love Foundation. I'm currently in San Luis Obispo. What has been most challenging this week? I think it's been a mixture between feeling motivated to do work from home and also just negotiating some like boundaries with family members who I'm isolating with.
I'm Arthi. I use she, her pronouns. I am a prevention coordinator at RISE in San Luis Obispo. A challenge for me this week has been, I run a volunteer group, so just like connecting with them and empowering them to be motivated to do work also.
Hi everyone, Luis Canseco from North County, San Diego. Can you all hear me? Yeah, okay, cool. The challenge I've been facing is trying to reach out to the youth from home. That's the challenge right now. And another challenge I was facing earlier this week was, stressing about what's going on. But I think I overcome that. by turning off the TV, turning off the news, and that helped a lot. So that's good.
All right. Anyone else who would like to check in?
Miranda, this is
Yes.
Enad again. I forgot to say that I'm calling from Live Violence Free in South Lake Tahoe, and we're right on the California and Nevada border.
Perfect. Thank you. So Farah, do you want to go ahead and check in? I'm gonna get us all used to talking. Hi.
No worries. My name is Farah. I'm from Haven Women's Center, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. The most challenging thing this week, I think, would be cohabitating my work life with my home life with my new coworkers. Sometimes they need some redirection, and so that, you know, puts me in a position where I need to stop what I'm doing and redirect them. Other than that, everything is good, and I'm very thankful and fortunate to be in the position that we are in. And I also turn off the news to kind of get some space away.
RT, have you been able to check in yet?
Yeah, I went earlier.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And Desiree?
Hi, I'm Desiree from Stand Strong. I'm a prevention coordinator, and something I have struggled with this week is probably finding a quiet space away from my dog.
Yeah, feeling that one. She is, just so folks know, she is going to be going back and forth and messing up my lovely little background. And then Jessica, would you like to check in?
Hi, everyone. As you can see, my cat wants to say hi. Sorry. Yeah, I'm Jessica Merrill. I do communications for the partnership, and I'm mainly here to just listen and learn and see how I can support you in these ongoing difficult times. I would say my biggest challenge is just being able to keep up with everything. There's a lot of information coming out. It seems like every single minute. And so just trying to learn how to prioritize, you know, what's you know, really important in the time being.
Thank you. And for anyone just joining, we're doing a check-in on your name, where you're calling from, and biggest challenge this week.
Good morning, everybody. I just got off a crisis call in my home office here, so I'm late to the party, but it's nice to see some prevention faces. I'm Holly Grace Curry from Haven in Modesto and Turlock. And I have a snoring dog in the background. You hear weird things happening. And what was the check-in question? The weirdest thing, what's going on this week? Is I don't even know what day it is. Like it's the 49th of April already.
Yeah, I understand that feeling definitely. So it's thinking about what's the biggest challenge this week. I know there's a lot that folks are facing, and
yeah. For me, I'm writing a federal grant, and it's been extended by 2 weeks, but it's difficult to do business as usual when nothing is usual. But the need doesn't stop, the need for funding, the need to, you know, keep programming going when whatever the future looks like gets here. So I kind of feel like I have a foot in the past and the present and the future, and just trying to be with that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So we don't have a formal webinar for today. What we were able to do last week was just kind of get the conversation started as folks are doing a whole lot of adjusting in that, you know, nothing is business as usual, but our grants don't stop and our requirements don't stop, and our want to do prevention and good work with our communities is still there. So some of what we've been doing to support folks in their work across intervention, prevention, et cetera, was creating more opportunities for folks to connect. So we have some regional conversations that we're having on a weekly basis. And with prevention, we had given the option of, do folks want to continue to have some space to check in with colleagues across the state to talk about what's working, what's challenging, how are folks adjusting their work and still doing some of that outreach, or I know I've been hearing also from folks that they are doing a lot of adjusting, like trying to tap into the virtual. So if their schools districts are doing e-learning, then how they're navigating that, as well as particularly with Sexual Assault Awareness Month, just having started on our 59th day of April, try to figure out like how are we still doing our Sexual Assault Awareness Month and what does that look like now? So it's more of a conversation. So I'm hoping folks will feel comfortable in muting as your space allows. And there was a question on how I was doing the virtual background. It's obviously not perfect, but I'm going to put a link in the chat for anybody who's using Zoom on a regular basis. And I'll share my screen really quick. So it walks you through exactly what the process is going to be for doing the virtual backgrounds. Because if, like me, some folks don't have the option of a home office, we're having to just get creative with space as we're cohabitating with our fellow self-isolationists, and figuring out what's going to work. So it'll walk you through exactly what the process is, and you can actually choose your color background. I know it says green is optimal, but not everybody has the, I personally don't own a green screen, and I'm not going to assume anyone else does. So that's one of the options. I kept seeing it in Zoom meetings, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need so that my family's not locked in their rooms for the entire time I'm on calls. So it's really easy to set up, and then you can choose your own image, or there's like a little bank of images that folks can choose from. So if you have like a white background, you can just click on the color of whatever background, try not to wear the similar color, and then you can go from there. But I've gotten that question from a couple of folks, like, how do I change my background? What can I do? So that's one option, as I know a lot of folks are on Zoom sometimes many hours a day. So I wanted to go around and hear what folks are, what does your prevention program look like right now in this new space?
I can go first. This is Arthi from RISE.
Hi.
So we run a prevention program called Close to Home. So we have adult volunteers and youth volunteers. And right now we're just trying to get them all connected and learn how to build a virtual community, and how we can make our community feel connected to itself. So we're doing various things. We're hosting a lot of lives on our Instagram, and we're also featuring local businesses and sharing how people can support local businesses at this time, and just kind of highlighting local people. But with SAM starting, I guess I am curious to see what other people, what other agencies are doing for SAM, specifically for the Action Wear Teal Day and for Denim Day.
Hey, thank you. Don't all talk at once. My coworker just took advantage of my distraction to eat a paper towel. Gotta love new coworkers. Okay.
My coworker chewed through our Ethernet cord day one in the new home office. So yes, I hear you. I won't speak for Farah and her heart program, but we have a school-based healthy relationships program at 6 high schools, I think, in Stanislaus County. And some of them are closed and not doing distance learning, and others are doing various Google Classroom type setups. So they are working with their classroom teachers to get those things uploaded to the district learning platform. They're doing a lot of in-home recording of their sessions, which I think is really nice, so that they can continue that familiar person that they've been receiving instruction from for most of the school year. And to be able to roll out the healthy relationships education that way. It's tricky though with Google Classroom. I think a lot of teachers are assigning work and you just need to submit it by the end of the week. So for data tracking and grant management purposes, we're used to daily attendance and daily, tracking of all these things. It's like that just is not happening right now. And our funders have been pretty flexible so far around that. And the unexpected benefit of this is that we're now going to have all of the lessons recorded for the future. So it's like funding comes and goes in cycles, right? So when your 3-year grant, your 5-year grant is done and the money goes away, we still have this video archive, I guess, of our lessons recorded. So that will be pretty neat.
That's great.
For the heart program, just to add on to what Holly Grace was saying, we're doing a lot of work virtually. So we are implementing groups like we would on site, but via Zoom. We have seen a decrease in attendance. However, the students that are participating are fully engaged. We are starting a podcast, and we hope to launch that in the next couple of days. And the podcast is going to be completely student-led, meaning we'll be here for reinforcements, technology issues, and any other obstacles that arise as we are piloting this. I'm curious, I think I heard somebody say that they're doing Instagram lives and how that's going. That actually hadn't even dawned on me. Instagram is probably the most popular platform for our population, so I'm curious to see how that's working out. As far as the podcast, I think we've come up with it being a coalition, meaning it's a combination of school sites. That way everybody gets a turn in participating. Recently, with the governor's announcement of the school year going virtually for the remainder of the school year, has really woken everybody up to the realization that this is our new normal for the 2019-2020 school year. Yeah. So we just want to make sure we finish strong, and I think that the students are motivated, we're motivated. It's just a matter of finding what works for everybody.
And Farah, with those podcasts, those are going to be on, how are those going to be sent out on your social media or on the Haven website?
Sure. So we're going to use a program called Anchor to record them, and then we are going to have the hyperlink in our bio on our social media outlets.
Oh, perfect. Because our communications manager just sent a chat, so I'm not sure if you saw, but definitely we want to hear what folks are doing and being able to lift that up for your programs, because we know that just like you were talking about, like with this new normal for the rest of the school year, being able to highlight and share the work that's happening, because prevention doesn't stop.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited and motivated to be on here and find out what other people are doing throughout the state, because we all need to share the fruits of our labor at this point. Who knows what will work, who knows what doesn't work, and what works for one may not work for another, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I'm once again Marilyn, and I'm at Barstow, California with a company called Desert Sanctuary. I'm the newest hire over here. I've only been with the company for a couple months, and I got brought on board as a housing navigator. So I'm not a case manager or anything, but they The case managers did a webinar training session yesterday for Zoom, and they're getting their company laptops, and they're getting set up to do case management. They've been doing case management on the telephones, and they're going to start doing the money management classes and parenting classes and all the other classes with the Zoom. They've been calling the clients to see if they're interested, and they're purchasing some notebooks and stuff for some of the clients that aren't going to have access maybe to that. And they were talking about how they can get them Wi-Fi if they don't have it, and what can be done to help them to still be able to have access to the resources that our office provides when we do have walk-in services.
That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've talked with a few folks that this is their first month or like 3-month period, and a few folks who this is their 3rd week with their program and doing prevention. Like first week was with us in Los Angeles for Building Change Together, and 2nd week was Shelter in Place. So it's been a big adjust for a lot of folks, I know.
I missed most people's check-ins, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm wondering, is anyone here from rural counties with terrible internet access? Because Stanislaus is a weird, well, we're all kind of weird, but you know, some of our cities have great internet access and some don't at all, including our staff. So we have staff trying to run the trauma response program in Patterson, you know, from their farm, and there's just no bandwidth. And so I'm wondering if you have alternatives for reaching people where technology is a real barrier.
Holly Grace, just wanted to let you know, I kind of randomly saw this in the news, but I believe the city council members in Salinas, California were passing out like a limited supply of like MiFi hotspots. And it was like a drive-up thing where a volunteer would just, you know, hand it to a community member. So there, you know, there might be an opportunity to try and influence the city council or county board of supervisors that way.
And I know I've heard from a few programs that are in rural areas trying to run programming that it's challenging. It's a very different dynamic. Not everyone has like the internet or Wi-Fi, or even if they do, the bandwidth can be quite terrible. And I've had folks trying to join calls and have had to like switch back and forth between their phone and actually being on the computer. And it seems to be like a work in progress, like Jessica was lifting up in terms of working with city council and having conversations with them. But also, what are some of the other ways folks are reaching their communities? Where are they able to reach their communities at all? One of the big ones is looking at if the schools are doing any kind of virtual learning, being able to tap in that way has been a big focus. But I know not all school districts have, like there's several school districts here in Yolo and Sacramento County that still don't have their e-learning on place. They're just giving huge handouts, huge packets of handouts to the youth, and like, there you go, we'll figure out how you turn it in. But there's still not quite an answer yet. For anyone else, how is that looking?
I will, hi, this is Enad. Before I jump off, I'll give you an update for Southlake. So for the high school, they've started using Google Classroom. And so we've connected with the principal and proposed some curriculum for her that she's reviewing now. And basically, once it gets approved, then it will kind of be slotted into the normal slot it would have been in if we were like there on site. And she's in contact with the teacher as well, and the teacher's on board with providing the online curriculum for the students. I'm not sure why my person isn't on the phone. I sent her a text. So the middle school, though, they're getting just a packet of paper. So they get a packet of paper and then they're just told to complete it weekly. So I know that she's reached out to some of the teachers and to the gym teacher at the middle school to see how she can kind of continue to, provide prevention education. And so I think really a lot of times for us here, I think we're just getting used to the new normal and, trying to figure out like, okay, well, how do we get our paperwork into the packet of papers that only gets distributed, and I don't know if yesterday they called the schools basically being closed until the end of the year for South Lake Tahoe. So, I don't know if they're going to like do a giant packet drop for the rest of the year now, and then we can get our materials in. But, we're definitely looking and investigating ways of continuing to be able to provide, prevention in the middle and the high school. The high school is easier because we have kind of that ready access built in, and the middle school is harder because of, basically how they're implementing their remote learning.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Alrighty. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. So I can call on folks, or if folks want to share. Again, just kind of what does your prevention program look like right now? And what are some plans you're making as we adjust to the ever-changing new normal?
I can kind of just speak to, actually just this morning, we released like our virtual learning strategy, which is, I know it's difficult for folks who are having trouble with those virtual platforms. We're trying to figure out how to come up with lessons remotely as well. But for right now, we're doing like a Monday, Thursday sort of program, where we will host virtual workshops at 1 p.m. So we have a selection of film-based content. And so we'll lead folks through every Monday and Thursday through a different piece of that content to help them or their students, if they want to send them our way, to learn about healthy relationships. And then we just piloted last night a relationships roundup with youth, and that will be happening 4 p.m. Monday and Thursdays. And that is from everything from like discussing Netflix series to talking about relationships during COVID-19, how to help a friend even when you're in isolation. So that will be 4 p.m. Mondays and Thursdays, mostly for youth, but we had a few adults interested, so we might try to do like breakout room type stuff. And then the other thing we're doing is an educator hour. So at 11 a.m. Mondays and Thursdays, our Mondays and Thursdays are about to get very busy.
Yeah.
We'll have staff on hosting pretty much like hour-long webinars on different topics. So our first one we'll be piloting tomorrow, I believe, and that's just like best practices for hosting virtual workshops and virtual learning. And then we'll go into all sorts of different topics. We have stuff on like how to host a One Love workshop all the way through like how do you teach students about safety planning and how to help friends. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to stick to a definite schedule so that folks can join at their leisure. I'm trying to figure out how to drop the link to sign up in the chat right now. Hopefully I will figure out how to do that in case anyone wants to sign up for any of those.
Let's start picking on people. How about for Community Resource Center, Janie or Luis? How is that looking right now? I know I've put people on the spot. I'll put everybody on the spot at some point.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'll go ahead. So our community resource center, we don't have our own youth groups, so we mostly work with schools. So that's a challenge right now, trying to get in contact with the youth and other educators. But I reached out to the district, to the local district, and hopes that someone, a teacher or another facilitator, will be able to collaborate with us and then deliver some education. I did join a group with the migrant education program here in El County, San Diego. So we do have a group on Tuesdays, and I will be getting in contact with you, Sheridan, so we can go ahead and deliver some of these activities to the youth. But yeah, besides that, that's a challenge right now, trying to get in contact with the community virtually.
Yeah, just to add on that too, is that our schools have really, I think, been holding out, determining whether this was going to be for the rest of the school year or just for a shorter period of time. And they're transitioning from, packet-based activities to something that is more that is more intentional in terms of their classroom learning. So our contacts and we work with 5 different school districts. They are, they're still figuring out their thing. So we're just being available and trying to be as flexible in what we can do to support them and share information. We have been able to stay connected with our community college that we have been working with, and we'll be able to finish up with them. So that is a bright spot. Yeah. Then, we're also trying to figure out how to do a couple of different, more of our adult-based sessions, doing that through Zoom as well, from our living room, bedroom, workroom at home. So, yeah, same as everybody.
All right, thank you. I know I've had a lot of requests lately on how to use Zoom and what all the features are. So we're going to be doing a webinar. We're working on the date, but we're going to be doing a webinar walking folks through, and I can do it individually for teams if folks are interested on how to use Zoom and like creating breakout rooms and how you can lead multiple conversations at the same time. And because I know that has been, like, we've utilized it in some of the regional conversations of, like, you start off with, here's everyone together and here's the conversation, and then here's some like specific topics. So if you're wanting to talk about immigration, if you're wanting to talk about healthy relationships, etc., you can put folks into different breakout rooms and having a facilitator in each of the rooms to be able to kind of lead that conversation and then coming back. So that's one of the really cool features with Zoom, even with the free version. You do have only 40 minutes with a free version for anybody who doesn't have like the paid subscription, but all you have to do is re-click the link when you get kicked out and you can start your next 40 minutes, which is not ideal, but as the overhead costs have gone down significantly this year for everyone being at home, some organizations have been able to tap into that. And I don't get any kind of kickback or any cut on our subscription for Zoom as I talk about it. It just happens to be the platform that I am most familiar with currently. So how about for other folks? What is that looking like in your areas? And I know we have some folks who have just joined, so please feel free to unmute and share. And if you want to be on camera, that's great. If you don't, totally respect that.
Hi, everyone. Yanira here. I just raised my hand in case there were other people that wanted to speak, but looks like not. So I just wanted to share with you all kind of what we've been doing. This is our second week, I believe, yes, for us, all of us working at home now. And for our prevention department, we were kind of fortunate that we kind of got a head start with it because of our 40-hour training. And our 40-hour training immediately had to go through an online platform. It's like, if we're going to do it, how is this going to look like? And so we did start doing Zoom as kind of a test run for it. And so, like I said, that kind of put us ahead for a bit. I believe that was like in the beginning of March. And then, so now we currently are offering our heart presentation. That's our healthy relationships presentations, where we go into different middle schools, high schools, and college campuses and to talk about healthy relationships. And we've been offering this to all of our schools. Currently, we had 2 schools, one last Friday and one this past Monday, that had us into their classroom. So that was really neat. Zoom bombing is a thing. So that's definitely something that we've had to kind of work through and kind of figure out what's the best way. So I really appreciated CPDB even offering down their newsletter. So that was really helpful. We currently have it set up so that either the teacher invites us in, or we create the Zoom webinar. So it kind of just depends. Each has their pros and cons, I think. But as long as you can have the teacher be a host, I think that kind of helps in mitigating that and having the teacher kind of filter through who they have as students. So that kind of helps. But I know one of the teachers did tell me that became a thing, and it became a little bit of an issue for their campus. So they're working through those kinks as well. And then I know we have done also Facebook Live things, and that has connected with Zoom. So we're getting people from both platforms. And so we kind of did one as an agency, kind of what we're doing now in response, and how all our services are looking like right now, and what that looks like. So I'll telehealth, so providing that information, and also our legal advocates were in another presentation where we did just one solely in Spanish, and we talked about our counseling, therapeutic services, prevention, and legal. So we were able to offer in English and in Spanish, and get it from multiple places. So it's been something. It's been kind of working through all of this, which is, I'm sure, what everyone else is doing too. So that's kind of what we've been doing. We're still developing kind of other tools for our clients specifically. We do have a Healthy Families program, so we're kind of thinking how we can implement that and distribute that to our clients if they want more education, want to continue, like for instance, not in replacement of, but to add like if they're not going to PEP, because we're not doing PEP, so what that could look like to continue giving them tools. So yeah, thank you.
That's great, Yanira. Thank you so much. It's really exciting to hear all the different ways folks are connecting. Anybody want to go next, or I can pick on folks? Pick folks out. Not pick on you. I'm not going to torture anyone. Desiree, how's that looking in your program? Oops, folks might have stepped away. Does anyone who hasn't checked in that is able to share how it's looking in their program right now? All right, so thinking about with your media advocacy, how have folks been going about that? Because I know that all of us are having conversations around media advocacy and what that can look like. And Jessica, I think you're unmuted now.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there are so many opportunities to reach out to journalists that you may have a good relationship with. Pitch them a story. We all know that for survivors, DV is all of the oppressions that survivors are seeing because of COVID-19 are completely compounded. And that kind of may be a good opening to talk about prevention and how you're continuing to engage the community. This might in particular be a good way to engage parents. So if you're writing an op-ed, for example, or you're pitching a story on the prevention efforts that you're doing and how they're, if students are are bored and they're looking for something to do that really helps their community, this might be one additional way to invite the parents to learn about you as an organization and provide that info. So I'm wondering what folks have done for traditional media advocacy, and also if we can help with that, with any pitching or templates for op-eds. I'm available. Have folks done any traditional advocacy related to prevention or related to services in the last few weeks? Or are folks interested in doing that? Okay, well, if not, that's okay. I know you got your hands full, but just know you can contact me if you do want to start with some traditional media advocacy. Definitely our local newspapers, folks are looking to them for up-to-date resources and information and ways to help the community. So this would be a great time to, I know you have your hands full, but just think about how you're engaging with journalists and then reaching your broader community that way too.
Well, because I would also think, especially as you're trying to connect with the schools and with youth and those different avenues of how that could bring up more of those conversations, and like within this context of our changing new normal, and with the governor's announcement that this is going to be the remainder of the school year, then what are some ways that parents can also find ways to continue to support the learning, or for the youth who maybe it's not a conversation that is happening in their homes, or it may not be a safe home, then how can they get that information about what's out in the community? Because that can be shared on all kinds of social media platforms, as well as like kind of that traditional. I know a lot of folks don't receive newspapers per se, but all of that is accessible on the internet, which I know a lot of youth are using.
Yeah. So this is as Miranda is saying, talking about the opportunities for enhanced education. I mean, this is a great opportunity to reach out to education reporters who are talking about the realities that this presents to students at this time. There was something else I was going to mention about that. Could even be a good way to engage youth, talking about how they can get involved in media advocacy. Maybe they write an op-ed about the work. One example that we've had in our organization, we get media inquiries from time to time. We've been getting a lot more recently, and Alejandra Aguilar, our colleague who's working to promote paid family leave access, did a segment on Univision 19, and probably got like 150 calls in one day, just responding to that. And asking questions about navigating the process. So certainly these links that are, published by news organizations are, being spread all throughout social media, and do carry this legitimacy that people look to for answers.
I know also as we're looking at the virtual landscape, some folks have started doing, like Holly Grace, you were talking about having your curricula recorded and available to be uploaded. Folks have been doing small videos like on TikTok or Instagram Live, because we know a lot of youth are not necessarily on Facebook, but then looking at what are some of those other social media platforms that can be used to be able to still do that outreach, and really talking with sometimes having those internal conversations as well as an organization, because access may be limited to the social media to like one person, or having a streamlined, or can we do one that's, can we have like a prevention hour where we're gonna talk about some of those things, and picking a time that works for folks to be able to spotlight some of that awareness, especially as Sexual Assault Awareness Month has started, and looking at how do we still get the message out around consent, and as we're all having to navigate different boundaries within our households and families and so on, like how are we taking those conversations out into the community? Whereas we're not able to like necessarily physically go out into our community, how are we still doing that? So I was curious if folks have started or how they've adjusted their sexual assault awareness plans. I know some folks had fundraisers planned for this month, and some have switched that to a virtual platform. So I'm curious how that's looking, or there's also kind of that grieving period, because your prevention month is not going to look the way it has in the past. Sharon, not to pick on you again, but I know with One Love, there's traditionally a marathon that's run this month. Can you talk a little bit about how that's changed this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we usually have, for those who don't know, One Love was founded in honor of Yardley Love, who was a senior at the University of Virginia, who was killed by her ex-boyfriend. And a 10-year anniversary of her death is May 3rd. So we were kind of gearing up to have this Yards for Yardley 5K, which we've had in the past, but this year was going to be a really big event in her home state of Maryland to, kind of commemorate that. And also it was going to be one of our really big fundraisers as well. And so we have now taken that virtual and have kind of made it, I don't know all of the nuances. Our like community fundraising sector of our organization is kind of handling that, but basically they've found a platform where I think it's similar to like there's certain apps like where you can compete with your friends for like most miles run, or however you're working out or choosing to, and so just to get folks moving and to kind of like unite people around the cause, and also again just kind of give people that connection point. We are taking it entirely virtual, and I think we've had, as of yesterday, like 6 million miles, or no, 6 million yards pledged, which is pretty amazing. So people are excited about it. I wish I had more information to share about it at this point. But yeah, so that's been, of course, a pivot. And I think it's now a little bit less about fundraising, unfortunately, but more about that like social connection and about getting people rallying around something together. So yeah, that's what I can say for now, but I'll give updates as it happens.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Our CSU Stanislaus-based sexual assault advocate is taking Sexual Assault Awareness Month online too. And she actually reached out to colleagues, which was a nice way to keep us connected. So she offered, one event or one activity you could do per day to post to Instagram. So from coloring pages to record a short video to, lots of options. So people could pick and choose dates that worked for them. And I feel like so many of our community members are stuck at home like we are, and many of them are glued to social media because that's their form of connection right now. And at least at Haven, I think we have a missed opportunity as far as reaching people that way because of access issues, and not everyone has admin rights to our social media platforms, and the people who do are very busy doing other things like making sure we get paid. And so we're kind of struggling with who to reallocate that task to, because I think we could be putting out a lot more information, stress reduction, anger management. I mean, hopefully stuff that trickles through to not just survivors, but to the people that they're stuck at home with. Activities you can do with your kids to talk about your feelings and where does stress live in your body, and does it feel like a little monkey in your mind, or does it feel like a rock in your tummy, or like these kind of activities that I want to be doing, but just capacity is not allowing.
Yeah, I know at least a few organizations that I've been in conversation with over the last month have really been talking about that access to the social media, and not wanting to just like have a free for all, but also wanting to have that consistent communication, and talking about like all the things you're talking about with that stress reduction and stress management and anger management. Like those are really critical conversations, not just for the folks they're stuck at home with, but also for folks there. It's very different being stuck in your home for 20 plus hours a day. Or if someone has a compromised immune system and things where they may not be going out really at all, or maybe in a high traffic area, so it's not really optimal to even go out for a walk necessarily. So have other folks been able to open up the access to the social media, or thinking about how your social media platform has been used?
I can just say we have like a little, I don't know if you'd call it a challenge right now, but we basically put out a post saying, take a selfie of yourself or a short video of how you are, maintaining a healthy relationship in isolation. And, like, are you having fun together? Are you making sure like everything's equal and everyone's being respectful? And then like take a selfie with you and a partner or you and a family member or whatever. And then we're like putting that on our Instagram story. That's kind of what we're doing as far as social media right now.
Great. Thank you. Yanira, how's that looking with Laura's house in terms of social media? I know you guys had kind of a leg up with the Zoom access.
Yes. So we have. Like I said earlier, it was actually really helpful to get our Zoom and our Facebook Live kind of connected, because we're able to get, I believe it was almost 200 people just with the Facebook Live. And so I think that captured a lot of our folks that are following us, and people were sharing it. And so I know right now they're kind of working on Instagram and what that looks like in terms of, just having it quick, especially with our heart department, with our teams, kind of seeing what that looks like and expanding with that. But definitely within the agency as a whole, I think Facebook has been the biggest thing, just because we can do larger things like this, such as webinars, which I know a lot of even other organizations near us kind of wanted to learn about one another and kind of what they're doing too. So I think that allowed for that space as well, so that they can then share that with their clients. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Artie or Desiree, was it looking at Rise or Sandstrong?
So with Stand Strong, we are brainstorming on how to use Instagram. We did set up a Facebook, but we haven't done anything with it yet. We're still brainstorming on all that.
Yeah, it's a big, having run an agency Facebook for a while, it's a big task, especially if you're doing multiple platforms.
Yeah, and then at Rise, we are kind of focusing on SAM for social media and having content for that. Like I said, we're doing our live streams, and along with the SAM posts is highlighting the local businesses that we've done interviews with local business owners. Yeah. And our Instagram is most 95% youth run. So it's kind of their project and basically whatever they want to post.
That's great. And if folks are able, can you put your social media handles for your agencies in the chat? Because we'd love to see what folks are doing. And I know my Facebook is a fun mix of my own personal and then all the agencies across the state and some of the national as well, just seeing what everyone is able to do. Apparently my coworker has decided she's done being locked in another room. Sorry.
I don't know if folks use Hootsuite. It's not a platform I'm super familiar with, but others at our agency use it to post across multiple platforms. So it seems to be a good management tool. So for people who don't know, I'll put a link in the chat if you want to check it out.
And if I remember correctly with Hootsuite, that's I had used that before, and you can do Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Have they added additional ones at this point? Do you know?
Do you know, Farah? I actually don't use it. I always tap out because I'm scared.
I'm sorry. So I was looking at the chat trying to read everyone's comments. I missed it. Can you repeat it?
Do you know if Hootsuite posts to platforms other than Instagram, Twitter, Facebook?
I think it's just those three.
The three big, okay.
Yeah.
The trifecta.
Awesome. You can post, you can schedule the time, the post. You can go up to months and months in advance. So if you have downtime, you can start scheduling your posts away. And I know our Heart team has found it really helpful to be able to do that, so that when we are in a regular school session and you can't get to a computer, you have that possibility.
Yeah, being able to schedule those posts is so valuable. I know sometimes doing the DVAM 31 ways in 31 days to raise awareness, and being able to schedule that out rather than hitting Sunday and going, oh no, I didn't post, and let me do this on sitting in the back of the car or whatever you're doing, can be definitely a challenge.
I'm just curious if anybody has seen an increase in followers since we're talking about social media platforms. I know I've seen an increase in our Instagram account, but on the other platforms, not so much. So I'm just curious if anybody else has experienced that as well.
Yeah, I know for the partnership Jessica shared, there's nothing notable on our end in terms of the increase. How about for others? If you have access to that information, recognizing that everybody is able to see that. I do love that the Trans Day of Visibility got really good interaction. One of the things I wanted to highlight for folks, and I'll share my screen, is with the, let me move the chat if folks are seeing that. So with the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, every year the National Sexual Violence Resource Center puts out a toolkit, and all of these are available for free. There's a lot of downloadable materials, but if folks are kind of tapped and capacity definitely can be an issue, if you're looking for quick information to be able to share or share with whoever in your organization is doing the social media, they have some really great images, and it can also give you kind of that starting point of what are some of the ideas that folks are doing. So I know there was an Instagram challenge. Let me see if I can just pull. Of course, it doesn't want to just click for me. But yeah, so having that Instagram challenge up for folks to be able to look at, here's some ways that people can do it virtually. Like it's entirely online, just with quick snapshots or pictures, ways that people can get involved, and also being able to, like, in terms of that engagement with your community, of being able to put out some kind of challenges, and especially like we usually see the here's the day that everyone wears teal. So sometimes what we have done at our office is folks wear teal to the office, but knowing that our staff are often in multiple places, then being able to take a snapshot of wherever they are. So like if we've been at a conference, encouraging folks to wear teal the day before, and then getting a picture of everyone who's down to share that. So then being able to put that issue out into, or put that challenge out to your communities of, for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, wear teal, and then holding up like just a paper that reads, one way I'm changing social norms, or putting out a challenge to the community, or one way that I'm raising awareness for Sexual Assault Awareness Month can be one of those options of a fairly easy way to reach out to the community and get folks thinking about it. But all of this is available on the National Sexual Violence website. So let me put that link into our chat. Trying to think of the other things that are within that. Some of the resources that they have are consent guides, campaign guides, different infographics to be able to share out. And if I remember correctly, the event planning guide was actually created before the Safer at Home executive order. So it's got some things that could be challenging, but thinking about what are some ways you can still engage communities and getting that conversation out. Because they have, like, I ask for consent, and looking at how power impacts consent, and also teaching consent early, and how you're having those conversations. So that could be part of that stress management as well, of, you know, where do you feel stress in your body, and thinking about that with the youth in your lives. If even like, how do we talk about, how do we say yes, how do we say no, and what does that look like, what does that feel like, and saying yes because you feel safe to, versus saying yes because you feel like you have to, or you don't have that option, and kind of what does personal power look like. Just some different ideas that folks can have, as well as the media outreach packet, because again, we're having to look at new and exciting ways to be able to do the prevention work that we're getting out in the communities, along with those follow-ups of what kind of opportunities you as an organization have, and how you can support like continuing those conversations. You don't mean to be stuck on social media. It just tends to be kind of the easiest avenue right at the moment, to kind of keep those conversations going and looking at that engagement. So any questions that folks have for folks on the call, from myself, please feel free to unmute or put it in the chat if you're feeling uncomfortable with chatting, or if you're not in a space where you can unmute. I also recognize we may be kind of tapped out. You know, there's a lot of different, I've heard from some folks their job description seems to be changing kind of daily. Has that been accurate for prevention folks on the call? Hopefully not. You're able to stay consistent with the work that you're doing and looking at that. I know that funders are also being really flexible and looking at how they can support people, or recognizing that you're not necessarily going to reach the written objectives this year. Jeannie.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But yes, yes, Luis and I are going to be, and have been, helping out in other areas of our agency as well, recognizing that at this moment, the things that we thought we were going to be doing this week, we're not doing. And they have, you know, had to change their ways of doing business enormously. Indirect services, especially with our food distribution, which was very volunteer based. And a lot of our volunteers, like many other people's volunteers, are age 65 plus. Different staff member, not only us, but other staff members are rotating in and out, being able to help support that area. You know, also we're certainly aware that that need may arise, although it hasn't yet, with our shelter and supportive services and domestic violence, particularly if we have cases. Right now, thank goodness, everybody is well and we haven't had direct effects from COVID within our organization, but, you know, hopefully that will be the case throughout this duration, but, you know, we have to be ready in case that isn't. So yes, I think all of us on our small staff of around 50 people are, you know, we're prepared to do what we need to do in our organization. Yeah. So even if we're not actually doing it, just the notion that we might be changes things up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jessica, for joining. All right, so are there other questions that folks have?
Yes, I have a question for everyone working with the youth. Are you all emphasizing self-care more right now? And the reason why I asked that is because last Tuesday when I was in a meeting with the youth, they were, I could notice how much they were stressing about being pretty much locked up in their rooms, right? And yeah, they seem stressed. So I was wondering if y'all working with youth right now, virtually, are you emphasizing self-care?
We created a self-care packet that we were able to download or an email to students, and they can print it off, and it had some journaling pages, ideas of things to do for self-care and practice. It was just fun stuff like do a dance, make a TikTok, journal, color, just different ideas. I can share it in the chat if that'd be helpful to everybody.
I know that with the, oh, Sharon, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we are, with the youth that we are talking to right now, like yesterday, like I said, we just piloted one of our like relationships roundup conversations, and the people who facilitated it on our staff said it was really surprising how, because sometimes when you get a lot of youth on like a video call, they're very inhibited to like speak up or give their input, but they did say that it seemed like for all of them just to talk about what they are experiencing in social distancing and what impact that's having on them has been really, they said it seemed like they were really getting a lot out of that, and they're like, I think we just need to open up more space for youth to share. And I think that is kind of how we're leaning into like the self-care side of things, or choosing to discuss lighter topics, I guess. Mm-hmm. So like discussing Netflix series that they're all watching rather than getting down into like the nitty gritty of unhealthy relationships and abuse and things like that. So I guess that's how we're focusing on like prioritizing self-care, or that our youth are feeling safe.
That's great. I know with the partnership we are looking at self-care for advocates and doing a webinar series. So we'll have more information coming out on that really soon, because it is a very different level of stress that folks are experiencing, and most folks check-in was around kind of that working from home and trying to keep your work and home life separate while they're all in the same exact space, and having to navigate those new boundaries with your new coworkers and all of that, and with coworkers in organizations. I've heard from some folks that, well, I know you're home, so I'm just going to go ahead and send you these messages, or times when I'm receiving emails that like, or I very intentionally turn off my email on my phone at 5 o'clock. But when I come in and, when I come into my living room essentially and open my email and I'm seeing emails from like 9:30 at night or 10:30 at night, then sending a quick email back to the person of, how are you taking care of yourself? And when are you taking some breaks for yourself? Like answering the questions as well, but also just kind of acknowledging timestamps are real, and catching myself at times where I'm like, well, my computer's right there, I should just check and just take care of this, or where I'm interacting with my family and suddenly going through my checklist of here's the things I need to do, and having to remind myself like, no, just because everything's right there does not mean that that's what I'm doing right now, and having to force myself to honor like there was a 3-day weekend, so making sure that for that 3-day weekend like I am not available, or checking email, which is sometimes easier said than done, but some of those different ways, and then thinking about how folks are managing that as well. Because I think there's that want to, like, we're immune to the things that we're talking about, and these are the conversations that we're having, and having to be realistic about we're all experiencing this together. It's not any one individual who's kind of in that space, and what does this new normal look like, particularly for the youth that you're working with. So the other ways that folks are doing the self-care with youth, or kind of thinking about how that conversation could happen. So I realize we may be talked out, and that's okay. I want to just let folks know about a couple of different opportunities to connect. Across our listserv, we had sent out an invite for our workplace, Facebook Workplace. I know sometimes it's like, oh, please do not give me another platform. But this is a way to be able to connect with folks from across the state through, and this isn't your standard Facebook. The mechanics are very similar, but it does not link to your personal Facebook. So like the conversations you're having here are going to be completely separate. But this is another avenue for folks to be able to share files, share photos. You can tag people. You can also just create, being able to upload some of those documents. So I'll be sharing some of the resources that I've gotten from folks, as well as other resources. Particularly around self-care and thinking about how is prevention looking in your areas, and being able to share that and some questions that you may have for preventionists across the state. We also have our Prevention Peers listserv, which I believe most folks on the call are connected with, but let me put that email into the chat as well. And if you are not on the listserv, if you're not receiving the prevention newsletter that comes out monthly, please email me so I can get you connected. And this is our prevention peer networking e-list. I know sometimes I've had questions from folks of, here, I'll send the information to you to upload. You can upload directly. You can email questions out directly on the listserv. It is an open forum, really not moderated. So we're not telling you, you have to talk about this, that, or the other. It's completely for preventionists to be able to connect. And I along with several of my colleagues, received those emails, so we're able to see if there's technical assistance questions or training questions, being able to address those, as well as sharing resources that we have. So that is available for folks. If you are not on the Prevention Peer Networking listserv and you would like to be, please email me so I can get you connected. If you're not a member of the partnership, that's okay. We have access for non-members as well. So if there's community members that you are working in collaboration with that you would like to get added to the conversation, then please let me know. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Our next webinar is going to be on, we're looking at every 2 weeks, was pretty much the consensus that we had gotten from folks in our last conversation. So our next webinar will be on April 16th, Thursday, from 10:30 to 12. And we're going to be looking at some concrete strategies that folks are implementing. And I know I've had questions around what's the cost, because a lot of things can come down to those as folks are looking at new platforms. So we'll be able to talk about those things as well. So look forward to having you all on our call in 2 weeks. And if you have questions, please feel free to connect, reach out. We definitely want to keep the conversations going. Thank you, everyone.